set.
Great, thank you. Call the meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. on Wednesday, March 23rd. This meeting will be recorded and may be live. All attendees are muted upon the entry. The host will unmute guests during the presentation, hearing, or citizens' comment agenda items. Questions during the meeting can be submitted in the chat area to be addressed by the chair. Attendees not adhering to the guidelines may be put on hold or removed by the host. Okay, saying that, moving on to chair's announcements. Have a few of them. Had some crackers choking here. Okay, first I'd like to say that this is Jean Garino's last meeting with us. She has, due to her other responsibilities, resigned from the planning board. Therefore, she can no longer serve on CPC as she is the planning board's representative. I'd like to thank Jean for all her input, her dedication to the CPC, as well as dedication to the planning board. Jean, you'll definitely be missed. I'd also like to welcome Stacy Driscoll, who's our newest member. She was recently sworn in. She represents the Housing Authority. And this is her first meeting with us. Couple more things. I'd like to say condolences and sympathies to Eileen Heide, who is chair of the Open Space Committee, has attended several of our meetings, working with us on projects. Sympathies to her on the passing of her husband, Frank Yateman. Lastly, I sent out to the CPC the latest coalition newsletter. We sent out a lot of reading to do for this meeting. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I suggest you do. And there's also on there a link to coalition training. One of the ones I went to was their boot camp. I thought I knew about CPC, and I learned and was refreshed in a lot of things. So if you have a chance, I suggest you look at those, especially Stacy. It will give you a background of CPC and what it covers. Okay, Carlton.
Gina, yeah, just in case anybody wants to go to the memorial service for Frank, it's on Saturday, this coming Saturday at the Unitarian Church. And I believe it's at 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So if anybody wishes to attend, Frank was a great supporter of CPC.
Actually, my first project that I worked on for CPC eons ago was with Frank for the Unitarian Church. Wonderful man. Again, our sympathies to Eileen and the rest of his family.
I'd also like to ask the two people that are on phones that aren't showing any images of who you are. Could you please identify yourselves?
Okay, we have a 508-807-7960 and a 774-274-5036.
Those the Hansons.
One might be David.
I know Bob wasn't going to attend.
Yeah, Bob couldn't make it. He said David would try to get it on, so we can verify that. Good thought, Jean.
Yeah, one person is William's phone, 774. And then
Who is it?
Allison.
Okay, we
Allison
have,
Sikri, I think.
No, she's
Hi.
on Zoom.
yeah,
I'm,
no,
I work
she's,
at the library. Sorry, I didn't think mine was included in the ones that were just phone numbers. Sorry.
okay, no, we have two phone numbers.
And one is unmuted, so 508
Hello?
8077.
Hello?
Go ahead, I can
Yes.
hear you.
Okay, hi. Sorry, I just figured out how to unmute on Zoom. So it's Melissa Raymondetta, Lakeside Drive. Good evening, everybody. Just calling in to listen and see all the great things you're doing. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. Melissa, which, you were 7969, right?
7969. Yep, you got it.
Yep, got it. Okay. Okay, so we're just looking for one other, and as Jean said, it could be one of the Hansons. Okay, moving on, citizens open forum.
Excuse
Is there
me,
any
Gina, this
citizens?
is Pat Neary. I
Hi,
just
Pat.
checked Frank's memorial service, and the notice I got from the church said it was at 11. So we'll have to confirm that.
Okay, great,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
we'll check it.
Which
Okay.
which church is that again?
It's a Unitarian church. It's next to the art building at the college between Hunt Hall and the art building.
It's right across the street, right?
School
School
Street,
Street.
School Street on the
Yeah,
left.
it's on School Street. It's across from the quadrangle, but on School Street.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I'll write that down.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Any other citizens' comments?
Gina, I'm finally in. I was had trouble with my computer and I was using the phone. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you good,
Oh,
Bill.
okay.
Thank you.
Good. Yep. Sorry about that.
No problem. I had trouble getting it myself tonight. Okay. Public comments, more citizens' comments? Okay, hearing none. Oh, is somebody? Was that somebody?
You heard the train whistle.
Oh, how come I don't hear it? It's like a quarter of a mile from me. I think I'm immune to it. Okay, next we have approval of minutes from February 23rd. It was our shortened meeting. We had lost quorum, so it was a real short meeting. I just
Motion.
have a couple things myself. Josh, for guest present, we had David Moore and Eileen Heine, who were both there. And also a review of financial reports. We did review the January 31st, 2022 reports. Okay, and,
But
Motion
I'll,
to
you can make
accept
those
the recommendation.
what was that, Josh?
I just said that I'll make those edits.
Oh,
Thanks.
okay. Carlton,
Motion to approve as with the amendments.
Second. Harry.
okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing Josh, roll call,
Gina,
yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Nope, Stacy.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
Stacy,
She's just
right, she
abstaining.
wasn't at the meeting, so she's,
And Bill.
Yes.
Thank you.
great, thank you. Okay. Next thing is, next on the agenda is the FY23 budget. We do have,
We're going to do the financial report, Jean?
oh, I'm sorry, I jumped
No,
right
you-
over, yes, financial reports, thank you. I'm trying to write down, look who's here and do that. I went past it. Josh, I just sent that to you because I realized I hadn't sent it.
Yep.
If you can just put those up on the screen, please.
Yes, give me just a moment.
Yep. Okay, here's the first. One of the things that we had noticed was that the memorial building didn't show. We looked into that. It's because the way the CPC vote was to transfer the funds into our memorial building fund, which is what happened. So that's why we don't show it here. Carlton and I thought that it should be at least show that the funds are encumbered. So we are going to talk further with the finance department to see if we can somehow get it to show in here that the funds have been encumbered, but just put into a different fund. So that's my comments on this. Any questions at all? Okay, for the McKellen School, the 135,000 was for the open space part. We've already paid the housing portion. That's the open space part for the developers are putting in a small park facing the building to the right. And that will more than likely last thing to be done once all the construction trucks are out of there and construction work is done. Okay, other questions on this form? The sheet? Okay, Josh, can you put up the other one, please? Okay, this is the balance sheet. One thing to note, the second from the bottom, the fund balance designated for special purposes, we had voted a couple meetings ago to move that to undesignated. I checked with the finance department and that's being taken care of, so that will get moved. And by the time we see our next reports, that line hopefully won't be there. For the real estate tax for 2022 is probably most of what's in, because we don't have the tax payment due until, no, wait a minute, we have May 1st, correct? May 1st, so that will get a good size amount too.
And I will just note, because it's small here, apparently we have cash, which is basically money in the bank, $3.5 million in change in the bank. But we also will be talking tonight about some larger projects that may be coming up.
Correct, good point. So we will show the anticipated projects when we get into the budget portion. Okay, any questions or comments on the balance sheet? Okay, hearing none. Josh, what's up for that? Great, thank you. Next thing is the FY23 budget. We have people that are here for like items further down on the agenda. What are your thoughts about going out of order to take those folks first? Like we have representatives from the Central Square Congregational Church, we have from the library.
Lisa, Gina, I would prefer that we go through this budget piece first.
Okay,
We have to get a budget to the town shortly, and we just should get that done.
okay. Other thoughts? Okay, don't the CPC people all speak at once? Okay,
I agree with Carlton. We should probably stick with the finances first. You just kind of get that squared away before we bring up the congregation.
great, thank you. Okay, I've asked Carlton to give his just a small presentation, short presentation on the budget. For those of you that were here last month, it's for the most part duplicated, but we also stopped in the middle of the discussion. So if you, for those that weren't here, just, and for the others, just a refresher. So Carlton, it's all yours.
Josh, can you share screen, please?
You should be all set to share.
Okay, let me figure this out again. I'm still learning here. Where's the share screen thing? There it is. Okay, now what I want to do is minimize. And there we have. Can you see it, please?
No,
No. No, I can't see it.
I hear you. I'm just trying to figure out why it's not sharing.
Oh,
I had this problem the last time.
Yeah, take your time. You're good.
Yep.
It says, it's showing me here that, Josh, it says one participant can share at a time, and then it shows multiple participants can share. Do I click that?
Gosh.
Instead, just click the full share screen box.
Okay, now can you see my screen?
No.
No,
Let me go back. Click.
There it is. It's coming
Big.
up.
It's that wonderful marshland up to the north.
All we got is Carlton has started screen sharing. We
Okay,
don't
did
have
you see
anything else
something?
yet. There it
Yeah.
is.
There we go.
Yep.
There
Thank
you go.
you,
You
sir.
got it.
Wait, I would say touchdown, but it's the wrong season.
Home run.
I'm trying to make my screen move around, and you guys are hidden. Okay, all right, sorry about that. Last time we met, we talked about what our current budget was for last year, for FY22. We are trying to develop a budget for FY23. Actuals that we have received against budget, just so folks know, our 2% surcharge is on target for the next for the 700,000, and the state match came in at quite a bit more than we thought it would be. It was 284, and in addition, the state match, another budget reserve match was given at 32,000. So basically, we have already, without all of our money in, exceeded our budget, and it's $931,000. So going forward, what we have to do tonight is actually set a budget for FY23, which starts July 1st of 2023. And so what we've done is, so folks that are fairly new to this, and I'm sorry if I'm going to repeat to you that know, we are, by the Community Preservation Act, we are we are required to put at least 10% of our estimated FY23 budget into 3 categories. One is the open space reserve, one is the historic preservation reserve, and one is the housing reserve. So that's a requirement. And we are also allowed to put in our budget up to 5% of our anticipated revenue for the administrative expenses. So here you see, we had a large amount of money still to be spent in our administrative account for this year. I'm going to go to another sheet. I just can't, the screen is covering up my cursor. All right, come on. I can't figure out how to make this minimize. There we go. We've got an anticipated budget for next year. Gina, I'm going to use mine because that's the easiest one for me to look at. No, I'm going to go to yours.
Okay.
So Gina put together, and I put together a sheet because we have a lot of projects potentially coming up. We thought we ought to know what we are looking at for the future before we talk about the budget. So based on the finance director's input, we anticipate a budget which comes from the surcharge and the state match. So we're anticipating a budget, a number to address next year of $1,200,000. Try again, $1,025,000. So about $1 million. And basically, the next piece is, what do we anticipate? We do have an application that we need to consider tonight for eligibility, that the Stiles and Hart Improvement Project, which is designed to look at a number of things to make the Stiles and Hart more accessible, more walkable, those kinds of things, at about 1.3 million. We need to, at least when we get the application, set aside $1.3 million. There will be a match at some point if we're successful in a grant. And I think Harry probably knows more about that grant than I do. But anyway, it could be a 50% reimbursable, but we still have to carry the full amount going forward. There is a land acquisition, an open space acquisition that we have been informed about. That's probably going to be, $250,000, $350,000. We're carrying 300 as an estimate. We know that the Summer Street property down by the university, all of us know it as the old Mobil station. That property is potentially being acquired by the town, and we have to carry, in that terms, the full amount that the town has told us that we may be asked to pay for. It's open space. It's an open space acquisition. It abuts next to a park that's owned by the Florida T. Little Trust, or the Bridgewater Improvement Association. It was gifted to the BIA through her trust. The BIA now owns it, and so the town is in conversation with BIA to make those two parcels under different ownership at least consistent and coherent and connected. We have projects coming up that the Hanson Farm has an agriculture. I think it should be a conservation restriction here. It's my bad. That we don't know what that will be because it's based on appraisal, so that's open-ended, but it's not insufficient. It is significant. Not to worry about the Tool Farm. There's some connection we can talk about later. And I carried the trails at the MCI because I wasn't sure where Kitty and those folks that are working on that would go. So we have projected at least 2 million in open space projects, and that may be much higher going forward. The open space account has about 230,000 in it. And so what we're saying is, if we want to achieve that 2 million, we need to put more money into that reserve. Remembering we can access the undesignated money to cover costs of this nature. We have a historic application that we will start to look at tonight for the library. They're requesting approximately $100,000. I've added, we know that the Methodist Church is looking at a potential application. We have no idea how much. And I put this Jennings Hill Cemetery restoration in here because I'd had a conversation with the trustees of that, or the people that take care of it. And there are some funds that they may want to access under our administrative account, which I'll talk to in a minute. So they may be looking for some applications for restoration of historic headstones, that kind of thing. In terms of the housing over here, based on a conversation with Michael at one of our meetings, we don't think the housing is going to come forward with any new projects. And we have 310,000 in that particular account. Going forward to the administrative account, we know that we have dues in 2023 of about 3,000. The Hanson farm appraisal is somewhere between 10 and 15,000. The Jennings Hill assessment is, the Jennings Hill folks could apply for administrative funds to assess the condition of the park. And that would then lead them to be able to put more money or more information together for an application for potential headstone restoration, that kind of thing. The townhouse, the old town hall, there's a need, once we get the roof repaired, there will be a need to clear it out. That's not something CPA would do, but we will need to do a historical archaeological study depending on what that committee wants to do with that building. So there's, again, I'm estimating that we could be a request for a preservation architectural study. The committee had, and the town has already what do I want to say? We've accessed a historical architect.
Archaeological study.
Yeah, but an architect to potentially help her and that committee with their decision making. And we have some added things that we need to vote on tonight. That is some additional funds to complete the deed restriction on the CSC church. So I anticipate, and we anticipate, about $11,000 in change for expenses this year. We have 33,000 in that particular account right now. And we had discussed, boy, my spelling is terrible. We had discussed a potential $40,000 in the budget going forward. So that's what we're.
I'll take blame for that typo. That was me. I'll take the blame.
Oh, I love it when I can blame somebody. No, not really. Believe me, I had 4 corrections I had to do. So anyway, getting to the meat of our discussion for right now, because we do need to vote on this. So I developed a spreadsheet that has all of our accounts that I went over before, and our proposed income, or our estimated income, is up here at $775,000 in our surcharge. The state recommends a 32.3% estimate, and that, if we just multiplied that by the decimal point, we would expect $250,325. The town, and I agree with this, the town finance director has rounded that up to 250,000, down to 250,000. The first thing I'd need a consensus on, is that okay? Because once I change this number, it will modify numbers down here. Okay?
It's fine with me.
Why would he say just 250,000 even?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Just round budgeting. You need round numbers more than pennies.
Right, 250,000 pounds.
Make it 250.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just easier to keep track of.
Yep. You didn't see those other numbers change down there, but that's now locked in. Okay, so now we have that 1,025,000, and now we need to decide how much money, percentage-wise, we want to put into our reserve accounts. So as a starter for the conversation, here at the open space, because we have so much open space happening, I have estimated that we should probably do 50%. Now, if you guys want more or less, I can change that number and it modifies everything, okay? So for example,
Okay,
go ahead.
okay, I'm sorry. The 50% is the 512,500, correct?
That's right. It adds 512,500 to the account.
What were our projects so far that we had up to?
From open space, about 2 million
Okay,
and probably more.
right. Plus we have a couple big ones coming up.
So
Okay.
the more
Of
we
course,
put money in there,
we're assuming we're going to vote for all of these proposals that are coming
yeah.
up. Yeah, right.
Correct.
yes, that's correct. This is just a budgeting exercise.
Right. I
question-
understand that. Yeah.
Okay. To
But
the
I
committee.
don't think we should take it for granted that all these projects that are coming our way are going to be approved.
I agree. I agree.
Just for
Mhm.
the
But we
record.
should be ready for it regardless.
Correct, Kevin.
So what we can do is we can put 10% in and then look to the undesignated balance over here, 1.3 million plus 700,000. There's $2 million over here. We can look to that to make up the differences. That's not a problem. Or we can add more revenue to these reserve accounts in anticipation. To add to that, I suggest that the reserve for housing is at 10% since we have no idea of any projects that are coming forward. So in my personal opinions, we need more there, but 10% allows us to put more money into these other reserve accounts. Okay?
Mhm.
So folks, do you want to see that number go up or down? Because it's not my decision, it's a committee decision, and we're going to probably do this by consensus, right?
Right.
Carlton, so the fifth, so all the percentages here, 50/50, so that's 75%, 85, and then the 11th, that's 91%. So we're missing around 8% here, missing.
Okay, we
No,
have.
that doesn't
also
mean we're
the-
gonna
See the
spend it all.
40,000 down here?
Right, we have the admin.
Oh,
account,
that's what that is, okay.
Right, so that's the difference.
So it's just simply multiplying this number here by a percentage. This one calculates, if we do these three, this automatically calculates what that would be into that actually undesignated fund.
Okay, my thought is, as Carlton said, we can always spend out of undesignated. My thought, as I've said before, is I'd like to show as many of our expenditures coming out of the plot, like open space and recreation or housing or historical, as opposed to undesignated. When our expenditures get reported to the state, it does get, even if it comes out of undesignated, even though we pay it out of undesignated, it still shows it is coming from one of the named plots, the historic or open space or housing. My opinion is, for transparency, that we show as much as we can coming out of the actual, I call it plots. Some people call it buckets, some say accounts. But we should try to show as much as we can coming out of that. That's just my thought, just for transparency. If, Susie Q or Joe, whoever picks up, looks at our budget, they can see that what was actually spent out of those plots. Just my thought on it.
Other questions or comments?
Okay.
Just because the money's put into the bucket doesn't mean we're gonna spend it all on that either.
That's correct.
Correct.
It's just building that reserve up so that we have less need to use the undesignated, because the undesignated could go anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to be conservative. We have to, my thought is to be as realistic as we can, but also be conservative enough that we will eventually go to undesignated.
Money that's not spent in a previous budget, like this $2,129,817 that we have left over, is that money then does that become undesignated, or is that money still divided into those three pots?
Yes, they're still in the three pots. That money that we designate carries over. So this right here, the current balance, as of, if we spent no money out of historic, let's say, I'll
Yep.
pick a different one. If we spent no money out of the open space, it would,
Yeah.
that money would carry over and it would be added to, and it would become 742 in the
I
next
see.
budget.
Okay. Yep. That's what I thought it was.
So we don't, the only money that goes back into the undesignated is any unspent administrative funds goes back into the undesignated fund at the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, which it doesn't amount to that much in the end.
It's money at the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So what I will do, depending on what you want, I can change the percentage, or if you want to just say 700,000, then things will adjust. But it's easier for us to deal with percentages and then maybe round it. So what's your pleasure?
Well, it does make some sense the way it's been presented and given the anticipated projects that we have coming down the pike. So it seems reasonable to me.
At 50%?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the 50% too.
Yeah, and especially, this year, last year we weren't aware of anything. So this
True.
year we are aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's lock this one in, okay? And I'm gonna leave it at 512,500, okay?
Yep.
I'm gonna do that by simply changing its color.
I can't remember the last time we broke it down like this into all
We did
the
it.
different pots.
We did it
When did we
last
do
year.
it?
Yeah,
did it
we
last year.
have to do it every year, Kevin. Mass General Law created the CPC. CPA says that we have to put of estimated revenue of the surcharge and the state match. We have to put at least 10% in each of those three main pots and no more than 5% into administrative expenses.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. Was last year, did we put most of it in the undesignated, if memory
I think-
serves me correct?
No, last year I believe we just put a straight 10% in.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's how we did it last year.
10% last year.
Oh, we did
Okay.
10% for the undesignated. Okay.
So
Right.
only because we have lots of archival work that's potentially coming, the library is asking for in their application that we need to start considering tonight is about 100,000. I mentioned that there may be something coming in FY23 in terms of the townhouse and potential ceiling restoration, that kind of work. I thought we should increase that. So what I did as a factor was put in 25%. So that would be this amount of money. And if you add the current amount in that grant to this, then we would end up with 574. But of course, if we approve something for the library for this fiscal year, we would draw it from here, but this number would still remain high. So that's why my rationale behind 25%.
I like it. I agree.
Works for me.
Okay, other comments from CPC?
Thank you, Carlton, for putting that together. That was not easy to do.
Well, I won't tell you how many hours I billed the town, but my rate was zero. My rate was zero.
It's Calton's entertainment. Okay.
Okay, and so 10%, the required at least 10% is this number. So that's kind of fait accompli here at this point. So we'll block that one and is locked in. And what happens here, if we'd have changed any number here, this number would have changed. So this number becomes the leftover money that would go into in here, it would go into the undesignated balance. And if,
Well,
so,
Calvin, correction, it goes, it first, we have to, when we approve a budget, we have to put it into budgetary reserves. Then at some point, I don't know how they do it, they magically make it go into undesignated, but we have to categorize it as budgetary reserves.
I understand that, but we have
Yeah,
control.
no, I know you do. I'm just saying it for the others.
Okay, but yeah, it just goes into an account and it's available to us. And then last week we talked about having not the this is lower than the 5%, this 40,000 down here for admin. Last month we discussed it extensively about what to use it. And so we picked 40,000 before our meeting was out of quorum. I can change it back to 5%, or we can just leave it as is, based on what I've given you for potential stuff.
Colin, can you jump to the tab for anticipated projects? Thank you. Okay, so that actually increases, I think, what we have from Michael Dutton says Hanson Farm appraisal no more.
Yeah, it
15,000, so that would increase 5 to that, so that would make that. It would. Yeah. Okay, and we added.
But that's an FY23, so that's for budgeting purposes, right?
Right. Okay, but we're not sure about the Jennings Hill assessment or the town hall preservation. That could be 22 or 23.
Yes,
So
that's true. That's
we
true.
have enough to cover it. We have enough to cover it with our FY22 budget. But if it doesn't come through in this fiscal year, we have to plan for it in the next. But that can always, yeah, that's right. We have to plan for it because that can't pull from undesignated. Okay. Do we think that?
I need to finish one more thing. This is anticipated budgeting. We also have to designate the bonds that we're paying off. We have to designate those bonds specifically in our recommendation to the town budget. Okay, and so right now the Academy renovation principal is $240,000 a year. We also have building renovation interest. In that case, it's 105 estimated. These things change a little bit. The interest changes a bit. The principal on the Keith Homestead is 47,000 for the next 3 years. And the Keith Homestead interest right now is estimated at 3,350. So that gives us 395,000 that we have to include in our recommendation tonight. And Gina's going to be putting this all together in the formal thing. But I just wanted to let you guys know because we have to vote on this particular set of numbers. Okay.
Right. Yep. I'm just, okay, you're right. I'm just looking for a past email. But any discussion on?
Any
what
questions here?
Questions, discussion?
I think it looks great. Thank you, Carlton, for doing this for us. I like the spread.
Well, it's automated now, so all that hours that I put in will probably only be require 2 data entries for next year, maybe 4.
Oh, because it already has the formulations and everything per. You can just type it in and then, yeah. Yep. Nice.
Okay.
And they gave us the budget. Just to be clear, they gave us the budget on the 28th, right? So February 28th, that's when everything got published for the data.
That was our latest financial statement.
Only this information is updated. This is all what the town has recommended we will get for revenue for those two revenue sources. This number here. This is all just where we're at now. This is my estimate based on what we've agreed to here as to what we would have going into the FY23 should we spend no money from any of those accounts this year.
Okay, yeah, and that's if we don't approve anything for 2022.
Right. Anything going forward between now and June 30th.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense. Yep.
Motion?
Motion to
Okay.
approve.
Any other discussion? Okay, so how much before we do the motion?
You have a motion on the
see.
floor. You need to ask for a second.
Okay,
And we can
Second.
can I
discuss
ask
it
for
then.
them? Okay, can I?
I second the
ask for-
motion.
For discussion.
Okay. What we need to have as part of the vote isn't just the 3 pots in the admin and budgeted reserve. We need to have the amount for budget reserve.
Right,
So
it's right
we
here.
need to-
It's right there.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. Let me go back to here. Oops. Okay,
This is your budgeted reserve according to the town for discussion. This is the budgeted reserve that the town would put into the, I guess, whatever they want to put it in. It wouldn't be my favor, but they will put it into a budget.
okay, so that's,
Gina, will this help motion to approve as presented?
yep. I'm just making sure that I trust the figures add up, but. Okay. Can keep discussing while adding.
Does the second agree with the wording change?
I
Kevin?
do.
Thank
Yes.
you.
I think that makes sense to say that. Yeah.
Thank you. I call the question.
Okay, just bear with me for,
We have to vote on calling the question, A
Right.
roll call vote.
right, I'm just asking you guys to. bear
I'll
with me
withdraw
for-
it I'll withdraw it if we can move it forward and not take up people's time.
Okay, I'm just trying to check one thing. Hold on, just bear with me for a half a minute.
Is it going to change the numbers?
Don't know.
If you're trying to use the spreadsheet, Gina, if I might suggest, if you're trying to fill out the town spreadsheet, don't do it in the meeting. Just take these
Okay,
numbers and
no,
put them in.
I'm not filling it up. I was just adding those figures. And if you add. Okay, I added everything in green under the FY23 proposed budget. I added the 40,000 for admin and the 395, 350 for debt service. And I don't
You-
come up with 1,000.
You see this number right here?
Yep, that's not what I come up with.
That's an independent check of it,
Okay.
and they
Well,
balance.
that's what I was adding, and it doesn't. Okay, hold
I would have fixed it so it balanced should I not have gotten a balanced number here.
Okay. I trust you. I just want to.
Well, we're, okay.
Okay. Okay. We're right. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to accept it as presented.
Presented.
Right, we have Kevin. Okay, that's second.
Roll call vote.
Okay, Carlton, can you just move the screen up a tad so I can do a screenshot? Just
No, I'll do it differently. Just wait a minute, wait a minute. I
Okay,
can send you this document. There,
I can
there's
just do a
everything.
screenshot of it. If you just, okay, right there. Okay, I got it. Perfect. Okay, roll call vote, Josh.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Keen.
Did you say Jean? Yes.
Yep. Harry,
Yes.
Steve. Steve,
Yes.
thank you. Bill,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
thank you. The motion was approved.
Great, thank you, everybody. It was
I'm
painless.
back.
I know. Thank you, Carlton, for all the legwork on that.
You're most welcome.
Okay, and I'll get that off to the finance director and the town manager on the form that they submitted. Okay, moving on. Funded project updates. The Central Square Congregational Church has, I have more attachments for this thing, for this meeting. No, I didn't print out all 300 pages of the agenda. They have, as you might recall, we had, CPC had agreed to pay the deed restriction for the Central Square Congregational Church, not to exceed $6,500. We ended up, long story short, as you know, we had to, the original preservationist doing it withdrew. So Barbara Moore from the church has been in contact with a woman from Pal and Carlton, Barbara, somebody, my mind's blank on what Pal stands for.
The woman, Virginia Adams from Pal. I mean, last month we talked about you approved to pay her the additional fee that she wanted above what we paid Brian Pfeiffer for all the
Right,
work.
right. But what does Pal stand for again?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I have
I'm
like,
like, I know I
have
thought I printed out the thing, but I guess
it's in
I
my
did
other
not
pile
miss-
of paper downstairs. I have like 4 inches here.
That's
but
okay. It's an
preservation-
organization that.
I think it's something like Professional Archaeological Lab. They're
Yeah, the AS.
well-renowned. They're a well-renowned architecture, historic preservationist company. They are
Right.
well-respected and they're out of Rhode Island.
Right, so.
So
we
I have not heard back from Jenny Adams, which she was going to get back to me when she received the check from the town. So I just
Okay.
assumed she hasn't received the check.
Well, we
Is that
haven't
payable
voted
in
on it,
advance?
Bob.
She wants it in advance?
Yes, before she'll do her work.
Okay,
Oh,
that's
that's an important
I
point.
understood from her email.
At least she wants an agreement from you that you will pay
Right,
that
she wants the
additional cost.
agreement. I'm just looking for, okay, we didn't vote last month to pay it. That's what we're doing tonight. It was for $37.45.
Yeah.
So, okay, so hold on a second.
Yeah, we had given up to $6,500 to Brian Pfeiffer.
I just grabbed the wrong paper. Okay, so we had voted to pay no more than $6,500. We had to to save time and everything, what Ryan Pfeiffer, the previous preservationist, had already done. So that was $3,937.50. Pal is looking for $37.45, which comes to $7,683, which is about $1,183, excuse me, $83 more than what we had originally approved. So we need to vote tonight to expend that additional $1,183 to PayPal.
I move to increase the $6,500 previously voted to a total, to add $1,300 to that account, that the town would contract with PAL to complete the deed restriction.
I second that motion.
Okay, any discussion?
The reason I make it a little bit more is I don't know what else might happen, so I just didn't want to have a vote for $15 down the road.
Okay, what was your amount again, Calvin?
1,300, increase it by 1,300. So that would go to 7,800 total.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Josh, roll call.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, great. Thank you, Barbara. How is the steeple work going? That was,
Oh, I'd like to report on that.
yeah, thank you, please, and thank you.
This week, the small amount of work we did on the steeple was completed. All 4 of the black louvers were replaced, and the steeplejack also removed 6 of those long oval windows, took them out, reglazed them, put them back in, and put any new framework that was needed on the inside of the steeple around the windows, painted the inside. He could not paint the outside, and he could not remove the, there's like a plexiglass covering each window, which is like a protection because they need to bring in a lift to do that. So that would have to be done, the exterior work, when the steeple is done. So he's completed his work. We have sent him payment for his work. It was over 10,000, approximately $10,850. We paid him. And now we're working on a report to send to DAR. They gave us 50% of a $10,000 grant. And once the project was completed, they want pictures of it. They want verification of the invoice from the steeplejacks, verification that we paid the steeplejacks. And then they wanted to know if we would advertise for them. And so we put it on the website for the church. We put it, when we're trying to put it on the Buzz Around Bridgewater. They just want some recognition for the grant money that they gave them in publicity. And so that's what we're working on now. So that's going to go off to them in the next few days, a packet. And then we should, within 3 weeks, receive another $5,000 check from them.
That's great.
So that was
Very
exciting.
good. I'll have to look up when I go by.
Yes, I did. And then I
I'll
brought
do it
binoculars.
walking, so I don't cause an accident.
So the next thing I did, I resubmitted our original paperwork to you for phase 2 and phase 3. We at the church would just like to know if we're going to be approved for that. I mean, we were approved for phase 1 and you've awarded us $200,000 for that. And so, we're just anxious to kind of like at least get some estimates in or some bids out for the other part of the work on the exterior. So if you could look over our resubmittance of our application, that would be exciting for us.
Okay, we did receive it. Question for you folks, you and Gordon and Terry. Are you happy with the costs that are listed for phases 2 and 3? This was prepared probably 2 years ago.
Yes, they were prepared in 2019. And then when we were using the grant writer, he was actually writing grants for us in 2020. So in the month of January, so it was really revised in the month of January. So these figures I gave you are from January 2020.
Right, so
before COVID,
I
before all
guess
the
my
prices
question
went up.
is, yeah, are you comfortable with those estimates, given how much construction materials have gone up in the last couple of years?
That's a hard question, isn't it, Gina? That's my dog.
And I wish I had the magic 8-ball for you.
Well, I gave you the figures from January 2020, so I don't know what to do about that. To me, they're high figures, so
Okay,
if you wanted to say anything to me about that, what should
okay,
I do?
no, it was just a thought we had, if you are happy with that, or if you wanted to get updated estimates, but.
I will say we have a discussion later in new business with that, a new, what I consider a resubmission. But I will say at this point, we've got a lot of business tonight and we have to really dig into the old stuff. And so I think we're not going to get to a real vote tonight.
Okay.
I have to go back and read all of that stuff myself.
I guess I have one observation from my end, where you're working on the budget for 2023. Would the church will fall under the historical budget that
That's
you
correct.
have for 2023?
That's correct.
Right.
You probably have other historical buildings too for 2023 that you're working on.
We have
Right.
one historic proposal to entertain tonight from the library. We don't have any others. Well, we do have another one that I didn't point out, but there's another church in town looking for money. We've seen nothing from them in terms of eligibility or otherwise.
Do you think, is your plan to, if you do award us money for phase 2, would that be in 2023 or 20, and then the next phase 3 would be 2024? Is that how you plan your budget?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
Right, it depends on what comes in for applications. We have to look at them, see what's eligible. Something may come in that's we deem not eligible. There's a lot to look at. And as we showed on the anticipated projects, not just historical, but we have a lot coming through for open space.
So is there a chance
we need to look? Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm sorry. It's almost sometimes you think you're talking to each other face to face and you can just speak, you know?
Right.
There could be a chance that we would not be approved for phase 2 or phase 3, or, I mean, I just sit around and I think of these questions to ask you. Because we're so excited about doing the project, and yet we're held back, we're waiting on the deed restriction. And I think by the time that'll probably be fall, because this is, it's getting into spring now. So, and then I think the steeple hopefully would be done in 2022. So that's why I submitted this. I knew you'd be working on your budget for 2023. So
Right.
it's in for your consideration. That's.
Just so you know,
That's
the
it.
budget, the 200,000 that we voted is encumbered and it's set aside.
Yes, I know. I remember that. Yes, I remembered that. Okay.
Right, then we also have undesignated funds that are available to use for any of the pots. So we have that as well. But no, we will take a close look at it. As Carlton said, we can't make a decision tonight. We need to take the good look at it, look at other projects that we have on the table right now. Be fair to all the applicants on what they've put in. But we will look at it. We'll look at it closely and try to be fair. Any other discussion, CPC or Gordon? I see your hand up.
Yes, we're concerned over the vinyl siding. We need an indication that we're going to be taking it off in phase 2 and 3. If we're not going to get approval for that, we shouldn't be taking it off in phase 1, because we'll have a building that will look half done. So that's a consideration we should all think about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so taking the siding off was part of your phase 1?
It was,
Well, the steeple, you know, that would be the jacket around the steeple. And we don't
I
want
thought
to,
he was talking the whole church. I'm sorry.
well, I mean, we don't want to remove it from the steeple if we would not be approved to remove it from the lower part of the church. So we have to hold back on removing the aluminum siding off the steeple.
Okay.
I guess it's yeah.
And was that part of the 200,000? Do you recall? I'd have to look back at what.
The 200,000 covered only the steeple, no other part of the building.
Right, but did it include taking the siding off?
If I might suggest, I think what you're talking about here should be submitted to us as to why the urgency for this next piece. I'm sorry to sound like I'm an ogre, but we need more details than just a budget that you sent us to approve. We need to know, and I don't remember in phase 1 being all that siding taken off. I should, but I don't. But you're going to need to give us a little bit more time and maybe a little bit more information on why you can't proceed with the steeple.
We did receive a grant, the grant draft. It calls for us to take off the siding on the steeple.
Correct.
All right. So
okay,
I'm
so
just
that
saying, you don't want us to take that off if we're not going to get approval to take the whole building off. That's my only point.
We understand.
good.
We understand your
I'm
point.
sorry, I thought you were saying that CPC taking the siding off the steeple was part of the CPA grant, but it wasn't. It was an outside grant, correct?
The outside grant was only for $10,000. We had to designate, we actually had to pick a part of the steeple to tell them what we were going to fix. And so that was only the louvers in the windows.
Okay, got it. Okay. And CPC discussion, comments? Okay, hearing none. Gordon or Barbara or Terry, comments?
No, I'm good here. I'm just, I've been on the phone a long time with you.
Yeah,
No, I'm
sure.
good. I just, the grant is given to you again for reconsideration on phase 2 and phase 3. That's all.
Mhm.
So
Thank you.
there's a lot of
Okay,
paperwork.
good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and as I said, we'll look at it closely.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, moving on, Memorial Building. Carlton, update. We do have our sign up there. This is CP, funded by CPA.
Well, that was the best one. It only took 3 months, but we got it done. Thank you, Town. The other thing is that if anybody knows how to straighten signs and remove, it's a little crooked. It drives certain people that can look at that sign crazy all day long, that it's not square to the world. But anyway, I've taken some pictures of where they're at, in the front of the building, behind that fence where you see the mound of dirt, they've actually excavated down far enough, and they've, as of 4 or 5 days ago, they have laid the foundation for all of that accessibility that's going to go on in the front of the building. I don't see anything on the side, but they have also taken out the windows and sent them for restoration. Because of the asbestos in those windows, they had to send it out for special care. So that's why you see it boarded up. I don't know what's going on in the inside. Our grant doesn't cover the inside. It only covers the accessibility. So that's what I could see from holding my camera up high and shooting over the fence. I'm sorry the town manager's not here. We do need to get, the only thing I other say, we need to get the town to sign off on the award letter. So we're moving forward.
Great, thank you. And I believe the town manager still has to give us the maintenance plan
That's
for
true.
that. Okay, anything, discussion on the memorial building? Okay, moving on. Pickleball courts, the courts themselves are complete. Josh, can you be putting those pictures up too? Please. The pickleball courts the courts themselves are done. They've been getting a lot of use on Tuesdays in March. They've been having instructions on how to play pickleball. I've gone a couple of times. It's not as hard as I thought. If I can do it, anybody can do it, because I'm not the most coordinated person. All that's left is everything for the courts themselves have been paid. The only thing now that's left is to build a type of gazebo there, and that's in the process. Okay, here's some pictures here.
Guys,
Yeah, I was gonna say nice sky.
yeah.
Yeah, there's the courts, there's 6 courts. They're much smaller than tennis courts, which is good.
Is that Mr. Pickleball there?
What was that, Carlton?
Is that Mr. Pickleball in the picture?
That was Charlie. Yeah. If you can see on this picture right towards the bottom, see how the white line on the right goes down? You can see a faint line like continuing on and down to the side. That's where, if you remember, they had to reline it and repaint the courts because the line company that put the lines put them in the wrong spot. So that's what was part of the reason why it took so long. That's how far they were off in the lines. And that was the fault of the lighting company, not Parks and Rec. Okay, so there's some pictures. So that's it for the pickleball courts. If you have a chance, if you play pickleball, go down, give them a try if you're available. Next Tuesday is the last lesson they're giving there. It's an interesting game. I knew nothing about it until this whole thing came up a couple of years ago. Okay, McElwain School, Carlton.
Yes, I reached out to the developers to get an understanding of where they are with this whole project. And we had some nice discussions and interchanges. They indicate that they're 40% done, and I think they're basically on schedule. I did ask if we could get a visit so that we could actually see that our money was being spent for, 1, the affordable housing, that's critical. 2, the public benefit, which is that room they're building into the new apartment part of it. And 3, the open space, but the open space they haven't accessed yet. So that will probably be the last piece of the project. But in that discussion, I asked them about and I mentioned the grant agreement, we haven't finalized it with them. They were quite concerned that it might upset some of the legal arrangements. But I reassured them that all legal arrangements are in place. It's just a grant document that helps us track what's going on. It required our grant. It required that we have a sign up there that it's partially funded by CPC. That sign took a long time to get it up, but it is now up and still there, also crooked. So the bottom line is they said we could have a visit anytime, but they needed to coordinate it with their on-site people. And if I don't know how to proceed with setting up a date, I could set up a Google poll for people to say that the date. I can work with them for dates, send the Google poll out to you guys so that we could meet there and have a view. Anybody that wants to. Again, it's a housing project. It's the only housing project we've really funded in town. I think it's important to get a view. We did not fund the historic. I think I mentioned that. So if we get a view of the interior of the McElwain School, that's great. Their concern was they had to do a report to us on the historic part. And I clarified that we didn't fund that part, but we would appreciate any reports that they send to the people they get the money from. It's the federal government. So that's an update on that. How many people, show of hands, or what? How many of the committee would like to have a tour of the project?
Yeah, I'd love to.
1, 2, 3,
I
4,
think
5.
that'd be wonderful. Yeah.
And we'll let you come. We'll let
And
you
Jean,
come
you
in.
can come. All right, 6.
And I'm raising my hand.
I can see that. 7. Bill?
I'm okay. Thanks.
You're okay. I'm okay too. Read the book.
I'm okay, you're okay.
So we may have up to 7 people. So that's fine. Let me reach out to them and see what dates they might suggest. Are there better times of the day for those of us? Well, for those of us that are retired, may be able to fit in anything mostly. And those that are working, is there better time, afternoon, evening, not evening, but afternoon or morning?
Tuesdays are tough for me, and I know for Jean as well.
Okay, well, we'll put the poll together, but should I poll in the morning or afternoon?
I say morning.
AM? We'll look into that.
Yeah.
So I'll follow up with that and see if we can get, those guys are incredibly responsive. The project, what I can see, is going well. I can see that, the house that they've done, they're working on. So I can see from the street that they're making progress. But I will see if we can get a tour and get that in I'll get it set up within the next week, and then hopefully we'll do the tour within the next 2 weeks.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Once we have a time and a date, and we know who's going, we'll have to post that meeting.
Yeah.
Because if there's a quorum of us, we have to post a meeting.
We'll post it as a workshop.
Okay,
And you
sounds
can't
good.
do voting or anything else.
Okay. Don't
Great,
want to
thank you
vote,
for that reminder.
just want to look. Okay, discussion or questions on McElwain? Okay, hearing none. Next is anticipated projects that we've received and approved the eligibility forms, but we haven't received the applications yet. One is the mobile station. I have nothing to report on that. We're hoping the town manager was here. Carlton mentioned before about looking to combine it with the Flora and Walter Little Park with the Bridgewater Improvement Association. I don't know much more than that. Carlton, can you add, or anybody
Yes,
add to that?
I can add that. Yes, the town manager and the landscape architect and Marilee Hunt, the chair of the BIA. I'm a member of the BIA, by the way. met and they walked the grounds with the landscape architect. She had already a number of ideas. The whole thing is to make sure the two parcels integrate. So that's where it's at right now. Melissa's drawing up some concepts. I'm not sure where the town is in terms of the actual acquisition and the actual application. I'm assuming that it will be coming in very soon, probably for this year. And that's what I can tell you right now. Those guys had a really good conversation in terms of copacetic thinking about what's going on.
Nice. Just to clarify, when Carlton just mentioned Melissa, it's Melissa Desjardins, who's the landscaping architect, who at one time was a member and for a little bit chair of CPC.
And I will add, she chaired it for a while. I will add that the appraisals have been done. That's what I know. I haven't seen the appraisals yet.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any questions or comments on mobile station? Okay.
I'll be glad when it happens.
Yes,
when the old station is taken down.
Well, actually, there's
it looks depressing.
They're not taking that down.
No, let me brief.
Maybe.
They're taking part of it down, aren't they? Part of it down.
The idea is to retain the structure because it has sanitary, it has water, and it could be possibly a shelter during wet days. So the idea, we can't fund that part, but the idea is for the town to cover the costs to actually make that accessible, usable, and make it a little nicer looking building. Whether or not it's a whole rebuild, which I don't think it will be, or whether it's a resurrection of the current building, I don't know yet. That's not part of what I understand.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We can add that for that park for my Monday morning walking group. We might have to do it about 50 times, but we can add that. Okay, next is the Hanson's farm. It's a two-part. Bob Hanson had emailed me this afternoon that he unfortunately couldn't make the meeting tonight. But he did say that a meeting has been set up by the town manager with the town manager and the Hanson siblings for March 30th, which is one of the first things on the, I was going to show you, we have here a tentative time frame for the whole acquisition of the property. So that's one of the first things. And Bob had also told Carlton today that 99% of the boundary survey is complete. So that's moving right along too. Also,
the appraiser will need that.
What was that, Carlton? I'm sorry.
The appraiser will need that.
Right, good. Okay, and speaking of the appraisers, great segue into it. We have a letter from the town manager someplace that saying that the appraisal, oops, right here. I have too many papers for this meeting. Letter we actually received in time for the last meeting, but because we had to cut it short, says letter addressed to me as chair for CPC. As you know, we have been discussing the possibility of the town purchasing a development restriction over the land commonly known as Hanson's Farm. Talks about within the next few months, they'll be commissioning an appraisal. What he's asking is that we approve, he's estimating based on the appraisal for the Murray Needs property. Wow, 2014, that was back a bit. He estimates the cost to be about $15,000. We need to take a vote that to approve that amount from the admin fund so they can start their process of hiring the appraiser. Do we
Motion
have
to,
our,
motion to approve 15,000 from the administrative fund for an appraisal on the conservation restriction for the Hanson Farm project.
Second, Harry.
And just to add to that, well, discussion first. Let me others jump in.
okay, any discussion?
The town manager put together for an internal document a schedule, and that particular schedule calls for us voting on the appraisal funding tonight, which we've just motioned, and then the appraisal would likely occur later in the middle to late summer, because appraisals are only good for a certain amount of time. So there's a lot of other steps that have to be worked out before the appraisal happens. So getting this started now is great to get the appraiser under contract. And I'm told by several people that appraisers are flat out right now, and you got to schedule them months in advance. So that's my input.
Okay, further discussion?
Didn't they, oh, yeah, okay. Didn't they, when they came to the Hanson farm to do, that wasn't an appraisal, right? That was just like a warm up.
No, it's a boundary survey. They have to set the exact boundaries of the property, what's going to be included, what's going to be excluded, and they have to have that diagram available to an appraiser so he knows exactly what values, where he needs to put value for what. An appraisal has to be.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and the appraisal has to be highest and best use. Highest price, best use.
Highest price, best use. Okay.
Yep.
Is Carlton set for the scheduling of the appraiser? You have to book them way ahead because they're completely swamped. But the appraisal, as Carlton mentioned, is only good for so long. And part of this whole process is submitting a land grant application, which in the case when that's submitted, the appraisal can't be more than X number of days old. So it has to kind of all tie into the whole process on when it's done. Okay, further discussion?
Who's gonna set up the appointment for the appraiser? Is it Hanson Farm that will set up the appraisal?
The town manager, it's the town that's doing the appraisal.
It's our responsibility to appraise it. They have their own appraisal. We have to do our own appraisal.
Right.
Oh, it's like two separate.
And then we negotiate.
Correct.
The town manager will do the negotiation.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, he does most of the he does the negotiations for the appraisal. That's one of his responsibilities.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call, Josh.
Tina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes, sir.
Kevin,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you. Next is the library archival project application. There was one of the short ones that was sent out with the meeting packet. Okay, it's Carlton, do you want to start on that?
First of all, I thank the library for submitting a very detailed, well-written application. I think they dotted all the I's that we request in our guidance for these kind of documents, and maybe some of the J's. The appraisal amount or not the appraisal, but the funding amount that they're requesting from us is, well, let me ask a question. Show of hands. How many people have had chance to read that application?
Read some of it.
One,
Yeah.
2, 3.
Can't say that I've got through all the pages, but I've read a good part of it.
Okay, so it looks like about half of us have read that application. That we need to have everybody look at it because it's finely written, but there are 5 pages of funding categories that they put in. Excruciating detail, which is absolutely what we want. And they also list cost per unit on parts, quantity requested, the budgeted amount the amount that the public library will put towards it, both as in-kind services because of the Allison Skirkle, who's on. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name, Allison. She put this together. It has there's an FTL trust amount in what they're asking for. There's the SHARAB grant amount that has a number of dollars associated with it. And then there's the CPC requested amount. And then there's a total. So we have very fine granular detail on the budgeting process. What they've asked for is there's a personnel one that they've listed their own library budgeted. There's in-kind volunteer hours for the SHARAB grant, and that is, I need you to clarify in a little bit, Allison, what that exactly means. There's an item description for equipment. There's an item, and that goes for 2 pages. There is some historical room shelving. There's some oral history work that's not being asked from us. They're going to look at, there's some supplies that we're not being asked to provide. Actually, I do have a person that I want Allison to get an oral history, but we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah, I'd love the name. Thanks.
And then there's processing and preservation. There's a number of supply type things in there, but there are some important documents to be conserved and preserved. And well, let me have Allison describe in a general way what the categories are intended to cover at this point. Unless people have, committee members, do you have any questions at this point? Those who've read it or otherwise? Because I think we're going to need to push it off to next meeting to make an actual vote, because if we haven't read it completely, the level of effort that Allison put into this deserves our level of effort to review it.
I first want to thank Allison for all her hard and diligent work on this. I'm sure it wasn't an easy thing to put together. One thing that I think we should look at carefully is what's actually being asked for. There's a lot of equipment being asked for. There's display cases, things like that. We have to pay close attention to if it's a CPC expense, CPA expense, or if it's something that should come out of the town budget. Just an example, display cases, or shelving, that it's, will it always, well, display cases and shelving, probably more so shelving, will it always be used for showcasing, displaying these artifacts? Will it at some point be used for something else? We need to look at that. We need to look at equipment, the digitization equipment. So when you read it or reread it or finish reading it, keep those things in mind, like what would be a budget, a town budget item or a community preservation item. So just keep that in mind as you read.
So
I don't know
Allison,
if it's appropriate for me to go ahead.
Allison, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know if it's appropriate for me to chime in now, but with the display cases, because they are the quality that you would require for archival materials, it would be kind of a gross misuse of funds for the library to even consider using them for non-historic preservation because they're so top of the line. I can't imagine a world where they would use them for anything other than historic artifacts. And then for the in-kind hours, we're going to have a volunteer assist with the oral history interviews. I've spoken actually, this was a little too specific, I felt, to include in the application, but I've spoken with a former communications professor named Estelle, who's done a little bit of oral history interview work with the senior center already. I've seen her work with interview someone. I really like her style, and she was open to assisting with our project.
Yes, Estelle's good choice.
Definitely. Okay, any other discussion on the application? I think, as we said, we need to all read it closely. If you need to look at our chart that we have, what's falls into the categories, what's allowable under historic. Just keep all that in mind, in the back of your mind as you're reading.
And remember, it's a committee decision, not an individual decision.
Correct.
I just wanted to mention, this is Steve Rogan. I just wanted to mention to Allison that I think she did an excellent job putting this together.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Allison, you may not know Steve, but he actually does work in the area of courthouse reuse and restoration. Did I get that right, Steve?
I did not know that. We've met, but
Yes.
but I did not know about the courthouse restoration.
I just don't like to not have transparency here.
Yes. No.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, just a question for the record. Have we ever funded an archival digitization proposal like this? And my second question is, do CPCs routinely fund such projects? I'm probably revealing the fact that I'm a Luddite, but that's okay.
No, we have never funded digitization. We've never been asked to fund it. Other cities and towns have funded it.
Okay.
To different extents.
Good. So
to jump in again.
We're not going to be called on the carpet by any authorities above our head. So
with the digitization, what we have included in the grant proposal right now, I would be doing in-house with equipment that we've already purchased. And then for the town record books themselves, because we didn't want to make this the thing that failed our application, essentially. So we've taken the digitization of the town record books out of the application, and we're pursuing alternate funding for that.
But let me add.
No CPC. Go ahead.
No, Allison, finish. I interrupted you.
Oh, so to just sum up, no CPC funding will directly be going to digitization, although that will be a component of the project.
Okay. So what I wanted to give the committee was the guidance we have received from people that deal with this more often, vis-a-vis the coalition. They say that digitization is not fundable by CPA, and the but is that if it's incidental to the project, it could be funded. If it's not incidental to the project, vis-a-vis it's half the cost, it's probably not incidental. So depending on how much it's going to cost to restore those very historic books, there's two of them in the application, I believe. And they're about 3 inches thick, Allison, right?
The one, there are
Roughly.
two, yes, there's two that are included in the application. And those are the two that needed the most work. One is, I would say, about 3 inches thick. It's the fourth installment in its particular series, and it has inactive mold on the back cover, which makes that top priority. The other one is our earliest book, dated 1656. That one's a little bit thinner, and also I would say maybe 14 to 16 inches tall. It's kind of a funny long shape.
Handmade paper. You're muted.
Yeah. It's yeah, paper, and then there's a mixture. It's they walked me through the whole thing when I took it in. There's a mixture of iron gall ink and another kind of ink, so they have to work with that a specific way because the different inks react differently. And yeah, any DCC where I took it is they're the best. They do very high quality work.
So my question, did they give you a breakdown as to what the cost? I'll say the other thing that I've learned, because Allison has been so helpful, is that when you restore these books, you have to take them apart, and that's when the best opportunity for digitization is. And if that cost is, well, let's say 10% for discussion purposes. If that's 10%, then potentially we could cover that digitization part, and their grant money could go somewhere else or whatever. Anyway, I just wanted to put that on the table and for Allison to rethink a bit about. But again, it's really subjective in terms of digitization, but the statute says preserve, restore, and something else. And that means historic documents. Digital isn't preserving those documents, but it is making those documents more publicly accessible for researchers and historians and that kind of thing. So we've got to balance that a little bit. And Allison, I appreciate that you really looked at that. But also, as we consider this, especially hard the next meeting, I think we're going to have to move it forward to the next meeting. I think we need to have a little bit more input on the percentages so that we can help you in your application process and help maybe with the digitization process.
Are you suggesting?
Currently, where these 17th century books housed? Are they housed in humidity controlled environment, or where are they housed now?
Yeah, so typically they are stored in the historical room at the public library, which is climate controlled. We need to get some maintenance done actually on that unit because it's not quite as perfect as I would like, to be honest. We've just installed monitors, and I want the best of the best for those records because they deserve it. And then currently they're on deposit with any DCC, the New England or Northeast Document Conservation Center. So because we're a public library, they will give us a quote for free. And then we can leave the items there for 6 months, or if we talk to them, we can leave them a little bit longer while we work on funding. So we don't have to continuously drive them back and forth.
Right.
Fantastic.
I mean, 17th century documents are very vulnerable.
Yeah, it's incredible that we still have them.
It really is. I'm all for this. I think it's very important.
I can, from personal experience with the old BHS, we preserve an original copy of the original deed, 1556, that was marked by Asamakan and the colonialist at the Old Bridgewater Historic Society. Those guys did the preservation. It came out fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I I'm just going to change the topic a wee bit. The other thing that's in there, there is a breakout, and maybe you can explain a little bit more. There's a breakout of humidity sensors that would go inside these display cases or whatever it is that you want to call museum, whatever. Those are separate items, and those are essential for making sure anything that's inside of that is in fact properly in the proper environment.
yes. These cases, because they're top of the line, they filter UV. They're very durable, very high quality. So they actually create a microclimate within them. So whatever temperature and humidity is in the room might not reflect what is actually going on in the case, especially because the cases have silica gel compartments to keep that humidity stable. And when you're dealing with old record books, particularly those that are bound in parchment, humidity, keeping that consistent is so important. And so that's partially why we see these cases as essential to preservation. Without cases like these, we cannot display these items safely to the public. So within the case, each case will have an environmental sensor. It monitors temperature and humidity. And we have already taken part in a program that the state is sponsoring, where we get 2 sensors and essentially a hub that the sensors report to for free for several years. So we can, for a lower price than if we bought everything outright, we can add additional sensors onto our quote unquote account. So we can monitor temperature and humidity for each individual case. And if we see numbers that we don't like, because this program also has an alert feature, so I can get a message on my phone if there's a spike in temperature and humidity, if there are concerning numbers, we can immediately get the items out and put them in the historical room where they'll be in a more stable environment should the worst occur.
Where will these display cases be in the library? I mean, they will not be in the historical room, right? They'll be somewhere else.
Correct. The basement level in the library. If you've been to the library recently, it's closed off because it's getting redone. So yeah, new paint, new floors. They're, I believe, shoring up some plumbing and upgrading things. We would also be changing the lighting fixtures in the gallery area so they're more directional, so we can make sure the items have the appropriate amount of light to be ADA compliant, so the exhibit is accessible for everyone.
Those pictures were all in the packet of.
Yeah, I could not open the packet. I had trouble opening even the agenda.
Oh, sorry, the packet was only 303 pages.
Yeah.
And it's color.
On the Town of Bridgewater page, it was easy to open.
Right.
Yeah, I have to get down to the historical room, Allison, because I need to look at some books that you have for the Osamakun Club.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Would love to.
And how did you say who signed that document, Carlton?
Massasoit.
No, you said something else.
Yeah.
Did I say something else? Well, I meant Massasoit.
Yeah, but no, I just wanted, I wanted your pronunciation though.
Well, I don't know, but he's my grandchildren's 12th great grandfather. I don't know, something like that. By history, but I want to move this on a little bit. Allison, what documents would be in those museum quality, UV protected, sensor monitored cases? It's not going to be a gun, right? Because we'd have some historic guns up there too.
Our first exhibit, because of the Schwab grant funding, because that's veteran specific. So our first exhibit, we wouldn't have a permanent display. It's best for the items, even though the exhibit cases are sealed, it's best to rotate the items out occasionally for preservation. So our first exhibit would be of veterans records that we have. We would like to ideally supplement that with maybe a couple of things from OBHS, maybe a couple of things from the college. We've talked to them about that possibility. And so we have a number of items from the Civil War. Flora T. Little's father served. We have his sword actually and his Civil War desk. We have the papers of a prominent Black family in Bridgewater, and the husband served in the 54th. And then we have a number of records from World War II as well. I'm sure people who've lived in Bridgewater for a while are familiar with Helen Cassiani. If I'm butchering that name, I apologize. Who was a POW in World War II. And we have telegrams that she sent from the camps. We have a lot of her records that we would love to give the public an opportunity to see.
Do you know that Bridgewater Book Read had her book on their list, and there was excellent participation in that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah. So the plan is to those cases would be used for not only Bridgewater, but other historic documents, not artifacts, but more documents.
Depending on the exhibit, we would, we would like to naturally include artifacts because I think it boosts engagement. If you see a wall of paperwork, it might not be as inviting as if you see a sword or something like that. So we would like to have a good mixture with the collection at the Bridgewater Public Library being the backbone. And if we can pull some really interesting key items from other local historical organizations, then we would love to be able to do that as well, give them a little bit of an opportunity to share their treasures.
Do you have historic maps in our library right now?
We have maps. I haven't gone through them because there's a lot of organization actually that needs to happen before we can start. We have the physical room to unroll them, to rearrange them. And I don't want to risk damaging anything by mishandling it.
Any of these cases that you're looking for, quote unquote shelves or whatever, are those also climate controlled for flat rollouts of paper?
If we displayed something oversized like a map, we wouldn't be able to display, depending on the size of the map, we would likely need to get it matted on archival quality materials and display it upright, because there wouldn't be a drawer pull-out function for any of the tables. And looking at the space itself, it would be tricky to have a drawer pull out, I think, in a case, just because of the width of that area.
Well, I think
you would lose.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. But I'm thinking, my thought was going to a different direction. Is I know, because I've seen in the library, the locked room at the historic, that there's a lot of flat files that are really, really old. And as long as they're in a good place, that's fine. But what I was asking is whether or not any of these shelving that you're ordering would handle that in a better way.
Oh, I see what. I actually, the flat files that we have are all metal. We have enough space in those currently. So I'm pleased with our oversized storage situation. This is kind of a sidebar to the project. I just want to go through and really catalog everything, so we have a better understanding of exactly what's there and exactly what might need conservation work down the line, that sort of thing.
Is there any way for us to get your application by itself over to Bill, so that if you go online, if you follow the link that was sent out to access the agenda, it's in the agenda on the town website.
You're talking to me. I take it.
Yes, Bill.
Okay. I actually have it from when Allison sent it to me, so I can just forward you that, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you.
Then if you can't open it, we'll work on our, like a
this is such an important, an important project for kind of the scholarly world in general. I mean, there's a huge interest in primary source historiography. And we have all these wonderful primary sources that you mentioned that scholars don't know exist. And once they're digitized and made known, make a very important contribution to scholarship. That's the beauty of the digitization process. So I'm really excited about it. It's very worthwhile.
I completely agree. The number of people that turn up at the historical room and had no idea it was there is astounding. And so we would love to sort of take the historical room out of the historical room and put it right in front of people's faces as much as possible, so they know what a rich history they have.
It's upstairs, tucked away in the corner of the gallery, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that the majority of people in Bridgewater have no idea about the historical room at all.
Yeah,
I'm willing to bet most people don't.
I'm gonna add one more thing that it doesn't come across in the application, but the library director, the town clerk, and with the project we'll talk about a little bit more with the townhouse roofing and restoration project. They're working towards a cultural center. Steve, well aware of this also, but the whole idea is that the library also becomes, and maybe the senior center at time becomes part of that cultural draw for Bridgewater. And so this has some ramifications at a much broader scale than this specific project. So it's going to be encompassed in a larger concept, I believe. But I'll leave it at that. You guys need to go read it as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good discussion. Read it, reread it. Keep in mind what we discussed tonight. Come up with your questions, comments, suggestions, recommendations for the April meeting. And
I would hope that we'd be able to take a vote at the April meeting, to be honest with you.
Okay, and I want to thank Allison again for all her hard work, and I want to thank the committee for the discussion on this and for reading the application, being set to vote in April, hopefully. Okay, moving on. Styles and Hat Improvement Project. We have the eligibility form. It encompasses 5 parts. It's 5 components: improvement and added parking, a new trail layout utilizing existing and new trails, multiple footbridges as needed, canoe launch improvement, and new trailhead locations and interpretive signage to educate park users of environmental and historic areas of interest located within Styles and Hart. That was submitted by the town manager. It's the estimated project cost is approximately 1.3 million. He has also applied for a grant that's up to 50%. If you read the packet, there is the whole grant application was attached to the eligibility form. It's a 50% match grant. So if approved for the grant, it would be 50% back from that, which would be just over $500,000. But we have to budget the whole amount. We have to approve the whole amount in hopes to be reimbursed the 50%.
Have we ever funded a proposal that was contingent on a grant allocation and reimbursement. Have we ever done that
Wait.
before?
Yes.
When we
Yeah.
bought the Stiles and Hart property a couple
Uh-huh.
of years ago, that was I'm not sure the percentage, but it was a partially reimbursed by, and I apologize, I can't remember what organization reimbursed it. I don't believe it was contingent upon the grant.
When the Murray Needs
Does-
conservation restriction was put in place, conservation was voted. The CPA funded it in its entirety, and then we got an agricultural grant back. It covered about $450,000 of it. It's not uncommon, but it has.
Harry got,
Right, Jean?
sorry. And Harry got money back on Stiles and Hart.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
From this same granting agency, whatever it is, whatever, I've forgotten what the letters are.
It's land and water.
Yeah, which is a
Land
state
and water conservation.
It's a state agency, yes.
Yeah, agency, yeah.
I don't think when,
sorry?
no, I was gonna say, I don't think when the other Stiles and Hart, the purchase of the land or Murray Needs, when they were voted by CPC, and correct me if I'm wrong, for those of you that have been on CPC for like when those two awards were made, they weren't recommended by CPC contingent upon the grants. It was just approved, correctly?
Correct.
It wasn't contingent?
No, it was not. You had to
Okay.
you had to send out for the whole amount of money, and then the grants had been applied for, and it was pretty much clear that we were going to get the money back for the Murray Needs. But the fact is, you still had to come up with all the money, put it out, and then get reimbursed, and that money came back into our open space account on the Murray
Right.
Needs.
That's right. Thanks. That's what I thought. I was just answering Bill's question, making sure that I answered it right, where he talked about it being contingent upon the grant, but it's not.
No.
That's why
Like
we
the
have to
bonus.
carry the 1.3 million, is because if they don't get the grant, then the town is still going to move forward with the project.
Correct.
Which we will then
I-
fund in its entirety.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And then it's a
And we keep
Gina?
our
bonus if
fingers
you get the
crossed for
money
the
back.
grant.
Gina,
Right. Right, Harry?
I can almost guarantee that there's going to be another grant funding this project.
Okay.
All right.
Beyond the one that was in the application.
Beyond the state one, the Taunton River
Well-
Stewardship Council can put money towards this. It'll have to be written up. I'm
Okay.
not going to write it up. Somebody else can write it up. But we have money that we can put onto the town river, because the town river flows into and makes up the Taunton River. So the Taunton River Stewardship Council can fund money to this project. And
Right.
we most likely will later on. So you
So
already
that's
have,
great.
you already have one grant coming in.
Well,
Mhm.
we hope. We need to take the vote on this as eligible. I did review all the 5 items that Gina just read off, and all of those are eligible items under CPA. So I would move to approve the eligibility document as fundable by CPA under open space.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, that's better.
Okay,
I
guys.
was gonna say I can't second it because I'm the steward for Stiles and Hart.
Right.
Okay, good.
Our approval of the eligibility of the project, of course, doesn't obligate us in any way, shape, or form to approve the full proposal when it comes before us, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. We're just saying the project is eligible.
Okay.
I think they need that. I noticed that they didn't include that because we couldn't get to it at their last meeting, but it wasn't included in the grant application that was attached. And I'm hoping that the town will send this up as an additional addendum to that application, that it is eligible for the funds
Mhm.
through CPA.
Great.
I mean, I'm all for open space funding. If we can do anything to keep down the development that's going on in the town, I'm certainly in favor of the project. But I really want to know how this money is going to be spent. And I mean, these trails that we have, you know, leave so much to be desired. Parking, and they're just all kinds of issues with them. Maintenance. I'm glad that they're thinking of including some signage, because I mean, it's just, people don't even know these trails exist, and they're just kind of scattered all over the place. At least this will be a very large tract, right?
80 plus acres.
Yeah, that's substantial. That's
the biggest one in
Right,
Bridgewater,
yeah.
I believe.
Yes, it is.
There are trails out there.
Yes, there are
Probably after
trails
the
out there.
winter. Right, Harry, you walked it recently, correct?
Yep,
Okay.
part of it. I don't think I can do the whole thing.
Right.
Attleboro.
Yeah, Monica did.
Yeah,
I was
Monica,
just
Monica Bentley is here, who's a volunteer that's really involved with the parklands and trails in Bridgewater. And Monica, is that Stiles and Hat Pond behind you?
No, that's the Taunton River.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I would just add.
Can you
to
tell us more about
Bill's
the
knowledge-
trails?
I'm sorry.
What was that, Carlton?
For Bill's information, that grant agreement that is attached to the eligibility is full of wonderful details about the plan. So I think that's going to be an easy write for the application here. We just need to get through this eligibility. They didn't even have to go through an eligibility, but they have. So I'd just like to move us on to get to more deep things tonight.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the eligibility form from open space, and we have a second. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none. Josh, roll call.
Dina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is, before we move on, if anybody wants to walk Stiles and Hart, it is a nice place to walk. We can put something together and we can all walk it.
Wait a week or
if you
two.
want.
I'm having somebody come in to take down the down trees that are crossing the trails. And I'm just waiting for his time.
Great. Sounds
Currently there are
good.
6 trees down, so
Yeah.
one
I'll
of them
just
is
say,
really difficult.
any application that comes in needs to recognize that expense has already been covered, and
No
application
expense.
requires other funds.
Volunteer.
Right, I believe that's volunteer for that.
Yeah.
Well, it still needs to be looked at. It's important.
And
It's good.
Monica,
Right.
if there are any good burls on the trees, I know somebody who would like them.
On the ones that are coming down?
I think you'd do something for, get them or what have you.
Okay.
Maybe
for
it'd
you.
be turned into some kind of woodworking thing that could be auctioned off or raffled off as a fundraiser.
You know, he probably would do something like that.
What is he looking for, Jean?
He likes burls on the trees.
Okay, I knew somebody that made a wreath too from the looking lichen
Lichen.
branches too.
Lichen.
Lichen. We've never seen it, so we don't know that it really exists, but we take Jean's word for it that she made it. Okay, good. Next, we are getting through. We're slow but sure. Next is CPC memberships. We had talked about this a couple of months ago, that if you look at our term expirations, they're all the same except for one. We had talked about, we put on hold at the time about coming up with our own schedule or just leaving it as it is. We've been told that if a committee that we represent hasn't appointed somebody else, or if one of us hasn't resigned, then we just continue on. We've been told that Josh, who's our illustrious admin here, works in the town manager's office, and one of his responsibilities now is to look at all the committees and commissions and make some sense of term expirations. Does that still hold true, Josh?
Yes, it's something that's we're developing right now. We do have a pretty extensive list that Mary Lee was able to provide us. So I'm going to go through that and just take a look at everybody's expirations. That way they aren't all lining up at the same time.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Josh. I know Marilee has got a very detailed, since she's my wife, very detailed list.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you. Annual public hearing, the Mass General Law that created the CPA says we have to hold a public hearing annually. Last we had talked about it, we wanted to wait for, I believe, the master plan to be completed. I think that's probably what we're still looking at too, is holding off on setting a date for that right now.
So let's move it to the next meeting if necessary.
Yep. Okay. Next thing, document updates. So you said the application instructions are complete, and I think they're both on the town CPC webpage. Application was being made into a PDF writable format. Josh, any word on that?
No, not just yet. I know IT's been very, very busy with another program that they implemented over the last couple weeks. But it is something that is on my list to take care of. Because right now, if you have Adobe Premium, it'll actually open up and you can fill it in just like it should. What the problem is if you don't have the premium, it's not coming up that way. So I'm just trying to find a good workaround for that.
Excellent.
Okay.
Good to know.
Great. Thanks for the update. Okay, anticipated possible projects. Just quickly, without going into a lot of depth on, we've talked before about the senior center is putting together trails and little recreation area. They want to also include gardens. Gardens wouldn't be eligible for funding through us, but the trails and recreation areas would. We haven't seen an eligibility form, or, well, that would come before the application. But when that comes through, I know it's being worked on. It's being looked at. Larry Silva, who's a local engineer, has looked at it. Steve Sobel, was it Steve, Jean?
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Sobel from the town has looked at it too. Carlton has given a map of the area. So that's being worked on.
And I think Greg Tienzi was out there and looked at it, and Melissa had come. She's working on a landscape design.
Right. Okay, great. Anything else on the senior center?
Nope, that's
Okay.
it right now.
Yep, let's vote where we are. Okay. The Tool Park, the Tool property is where they're putting in the new fire station. Well, on other property too that incorporates the Tool Park. And that's more to develop trails, a little recreational area there, just for those of you that aren't aware, the Tool property is down by the power lines. It was left to the town for the purpose of recreational, passive recreation. The Tool family has agreed to let the fire station be built there. We put that on, we're not sure, there's still, Carlton, correct me if I'm wrong, Jean, I think there's still either close to or just over $100,000 in that account.
As of a year
Around.
ago, Jean, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I think it was around 90 to 100, somewhere in
No,
there.
the actual number 18 months ago or so was $102,000. And it's invested, so it's growing in interest. And there is, as I understood it, the trustee that held the property under trust had another, I don't know, several thousand, maybe $10,000 that could become contributed to that. So anything that happens on that property wouldn't be up necessarily for us to fund. But we're just carrying it because there has been conversation, and this is still, it's a gleam, it's a concept that we could connect that Tool recreation walking trail along the power line area, across Scotland Boulevard. There's some private land that we'd have to deal with, but it would connect into the Murray Needs Conservation Area, which has walkable trails in that forested part of it. It's I've been in on it, I walked it, it's very hilly, but access to that Murray Needs that we funded, conservation restriction, access to that property is extremely limited. And so this would be a way to create at least a 1.5 mile one-way walk. I think it's about 2.5 miles if you laid out the trail right. So, and I think CPA may become involved with that. That's why I just listed it on that maybe projects. So that's down the road. That's not going to happen for us for a year or more. But the fire station, I'll just remind everybody, the fire station is on the town warrant for the April 23rd election, when we elect at-large people in town for library trustee and school boards committee. That fire station is a phenomenal use of that land, and I think the trustee has agreed that they can have that land for a fire station under certain conditions. So all I'm saying is, if anybody watches this, get out and vote in a positive way, because we need it. We have high rises on the west side of town. This will cut the response time to 24 accidents, that kind of thing, substantially. It will create public space for meeting rooms, for training. It also will, I'm going to be right on top of it in terms of a trail. And I think open space will be also on top of it for the trail on the property. I think if they don't put a trail in there, they could run into some issues. I don't know how the town worked it out, but I'm just trying to say that this is something that down the road that we need to keep our eye on. I'll stop now.
And you said it'd be a little hilly?
A little hilly in the Murray Needs.
Good.
Yeah, it's got 15. I'll send you a topographic map of it. Okay, Gene, for your spare time, I'll go into Google Earth. I'll do a topographic line across a couple ways and show you what the elevation profiles changes are. Agreed? No? Okay.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be nice of you to do that.
Yeah, I think Jean froze.
Did I?
Yeah, so I'll send you that, okay?
Okay.
Well,
Send Gene the real data.
Okay,
just a
Bill,
question about the firehouse. How close will the building be to this power station? I mean, I was looking at that power station just the other day. It's gigantic. It
Yes,
is much bigger than I thought it was. Seems
Yes,
to
it
have
is.
grown since I saw it last, and I took a really close look at it. How close will this building be to that station?
It's on the eastern property line, and the fire station took a hard look at it, and they didn't see it was an issue.
Okay.
And I know what you're referring to, and I have personal opinions about that type of exposure.
Well, in Europe, that would never be allowed, ever. You can't have public buildings close to structures like that. That's
How
been
close? How
for
close?
30 or 40 years. But we're always behind the times on things like that.
How close?
What's that?
How close can those buildings be?
Well, I'm not sure what the specifics are, but I mean, the proximity is important. I mean, I don't know how close the fire station is going to be to those, but I mean, they're going to be.
I'll send you the distance.
Yeah, that would be interesting because people are going to be spending the night in that building.
Well, there are
Right.
houses
That's a good
that
point.
people
Yeah.
spend many nights in, underneath the lines.
Yeah,
There's houses underneath lines.
Seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, my company used to deal with that particular exposure, and it's pretty minor.
Yeah. Okay.
okay, good. One last thing, it's not on the toolpack, but we mentioned the election. Part of the amount that they're looking to be voted on it at the election is to do some updates and renovations for Station 2, which is on Plymouth Street.
Yeah, 2 million.
Right. Okay, moving on. Purchase of Broad Street property is also Styles and Hart. It's an added piece that they're looking to buy. We know we haven't seen a eligibility form for that. We know it's going to be about $300,000. It's to buy another tract of land right now for that. Harry, do you have any more info on that?
Not really. I thought it was 2 more pieces.
I think you're right. I lumped them together.
Yeah. It's 2 tracts of land.
Okay.
And it's for accessibility and parking, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yep. I'm all excited for all this stuff for Styles and Hart. It's my neighborhood. Close trails. Okay. Anything else on the Broad Street properties? Okay. Next, trails near our Department of Correction property on Summer Street. We've been told before that they wouldn't be coming to CPC for funding, but we put it on just in case something changes. Harry, do you know more on that?
Taunton River Stewardship Council is giving a grant to that project where it's right on the Taunton River.
Okay, so nothing requested from us.
And I think the state is getting involved in it also.
So is there any discussion about whether or not, because we can take it off the list if we're not going to be approached for money as CPC?
That one, Kitty would have the answer on that one. Kitty Doherty.
Can you find out if they have any intentions of approaching it? Because you've seen the money we may be outlaying soon.
Right.
And we need to understand that. I don't want to keep it on. I personally don't want to keep it on here if we don't have to.
All right, I'll look into that for you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Harry. The town manager, when we first talked about this, had said that they wouldn't be coming to us for money. But we had put it on as a potential project till we were more sure of it. But thank you, Harry, for looking into that for us. Okay. I have no other old business. I don't think. Okay, new business, anticipated possible project applications. These are things we've got wind of. We don't have applications yet for, we don't have eligibility forms. It's just things that we've heard through the grapevine that may be coming to us. The first is the town hall, the townhouse, roof repair restoration.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier in the meeting, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. There has been a grant application sent to the state to help repair the roof. The town council has appropriated funds for the roof repair, but the next stages of that cultural area development, one is cleaning up all the old documents that are in there. Allison put together a fantastic report on that. There's mold in there. There's documents that can be thrown out. There's documents that have to be retained. So that's their next step, is to get the interior of the building. And there's some historic friezes there. So that's their next step. But I do anticipate the town, the chair of the ad hoc committee could come to the CPC for administrative funds for an assessment of the interior in terms of architectural history, that kind of stuff. So that's just an FYI for the moment.
Okay, so we can take off where it says roof repairs and restoration, because that wouldn't be part of, that's how we had put it on the agenda.
Yeah, you can change that, but you can change it however you want.
Okay.
Based on what I just said.
Right, well, they wouldn't be coming to us.
Well,
for roof
let me just
repair.
say there's been a hiccup. There's been a hiccup in something that I can't talk about right now because it's still under resolution. You can't never say never.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, next is the Methodist Church on School Street. They're in the process of putting together an eligibility document for some historic preservation. I don't know an amount yet. They were still working on it. So that should be coming. Next is the Jennings Hill Cemetery. And I think Kathy.
Yeah, they're there, but let me briefly speak to that. Again, as I said earlier in the meeting, they have a lot of needs out there that could be eligible, but some of those needs are not well defined. So I put that on our to be done. It's up to the friends of the and Rich and Kathy to do that. I'm just suggesting that they might want to look at that grant. Now I'll let them speak to what their plans are.
Okay, Kathy or Rich, you're on.
Kathy, you there? Hello.
She's taking a lunch break.
I think so.
I think she fell asleep. Our meeting's going so long.
That's happened
you're
before,
on.
not at this meeting.
Right. Right.
Kathy,
So, Rich, just very quickly, because of the lateness of the meeting, but I apologize for not getting to it sooner. You and I have talked, and Kathy and I and you have talked, and I just give us some sense of where you're headed now.
Yeah, right now we're trying to piece together the things that are our needs for at least for the coming year. I mean, we've got some long range plans that involve fencing. We've talked about that, and doing either restoring or replacing it somehow. But we've got some other things. We've got some programs coming up that we need urgently need materials for. We've got some programs we want to run this coming year that help involve more volunteers for doing the stones and showing them how to do it, and getting some people, getting the school, getting Bridgewater State College. We've talked with them and they're interested in helping us out in for students that need hours, community hours and that sort of thing. So we've been successful with that. I think Kathy had come up with a.
If you can hear me, I'm here, Rich.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
She woke up.
I was trying to fool around with technology.
Kathy, you want to add some things to what I was talking about? Because you had a list there, I think.
Yeah, we do. Actually, a few things. One is we still have the ongoing problem, and it's really an important thing to try to address. So if we can't get CPA, CPC funds, we'd like some mentoring on who else we could go to for right now. A gate, we have already chosen fencing because of the pandemic and shipping and supplies and all that. It's going to take 2 to 3 months once we order it, but we have chosen it to be period appropriate. As some of you have walked the property, you know that the oldest part of the cemetery from the 1766 is where the original railroad ties and cast iron that was taken and stolen during other war times, we've been told, and other things, is where the original steps and all that was facing. That's High Street, right, Rich?
Yep, that's it.
The original thing. There's now a big tree growing through that. We had also spoken about making that entrance ADA accessible once we get that property, part of the property cleared out near to that original area, and do that. In the meantime, we've run into problems in the front where we're having vandalism at the cemetery more than ever before in the last 5 years. We're having cars and trucks drive over people's lots, things like that. So we spoke with the fencing company and they told us, as long as we're going to keep the same period, we can get the gate in there that will match the fencing once we raise all the funds. And that would be a cost of about $6,000. So we really need to actually get in touch with the state to see what they suggest, along with CPA and CPC, because it is one of the oldest properties in Bridgewater, dating back, and we have between 80 and 100 of the west there. They are veterans back to the Revolutionary War, Civil War, War of 1812, and up to present. So
Kathy,
yes, Gina.
have you spoken to the, I know I mentioned it before, the Sons of the American Revolution?
No, the SAR, no, SOR, yeah.
When I was at my cousin's grandson's Eagle Scout ceremony last summer, one of the men sitting at the table with us was from the Sons of the American Revolution. And he, just in talking, he was saying how they were restoring, and I know he said cemetery stones, the gravestones. I'm not sure if what else they do at the cemeteries. And he was from Rhode Island. He said he imagines that they do the same here too.
That's awesome.
So it might be worth looking at with them, even if it's just restoring the stones, but see what else they could do to help out.
That's a great lead, Gina. Actually, both Rich and I are SAR, DAR. We're not members yet, but we both are descendants of Revolutionary War soldiers. So that would be a great thing to contact them about. I do know that Brockton has an active DAR association, and they do give grants to different organizations. I don't think they're in the line that we're working with, but that's a great lead. Thank you. We also have that problem with the gate, as I was saying, that they told us that for the time being, they can give us a gate that will match the rest of the fencing down the road. And those of you that know the cemetery, there's 2 large granite pillars there. You're well aware, I believe, Carlton, of it. And we had shown some people that are here in the committee some of the things that we have planned for that. So that also will be ADA accessible once the gate is open. And for the time being, until we can get the vandalism under control, we will put a lock on it. We've already talked to the fencing company, who's done a lot of historical work before, and they have guaranteed us that they can put a combination lock on, which we can give to your committee and the historical committee in the town and all that. So that's one thing. The other thing that we're working on also, which you are all more aware than we are of the cost, is that we need to possibly involve now the state for our problems with the easement problem along our perimeter. We've been infringed upon so much, and the developer has not adhered to the 30-foot historic easement, nor the 30-foot greenbelt, I believe it's called, easement around the perimeter of their property. So we have big problems because we were told that the new trees that they planted 3 feet from our old barbed wire fencing that's left now, is those trees are now 3 years old. They started it after we started doing work and they noticed. So they put these 2 rows of pine trees up within 3 feet of the fence. Those roots from those pine trees are starting to come into our property, just like the branches are. Your property, I should say, not our property. You know what I mean? We feel like it's ours, the caretakers, you know? But the problem is we were told by someone from the DPW who was doing some work there that those roots weren't hard to do some digging they had to do this past month, but they said in another year or 2, it's going to be very encroaching. It's already encroaching, but the roots are tender. So we haven't seemed to be anywhere. I hope I'm not stepping on any toes here, but we haven't been able to get anywhere with the town of Bridgewater to stop the developers. There are now another 2 houses that are being built within like 20 feet, I believe, Rich.
Yeah, it's about 25 or 30 feet, according to the zoning laws. According to zoning laws, that property is under. There's supposed to be 20 feet buffer from the foundation to the edge of the property, and then another 30 feet beyond that. There's just no way that they're going to be able to maintain that. So I don't know why they're still building it that way, but obviously somebody's turning the other cheek as it goes. So that's kind of presented our dilemmas, that we're trying to handle it through the town. We're not getting a lot of answers. We're not getting a lot of, and you know, anybody that's been involved in historic preservation in the town, as soon as it goes up against building and development, it's a tough battle.
Oh, you always lose. You always lose.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Smith. It's
There's
true.
no question about that.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if the historical commission can weigh in on some of these issues. I mean, it's an historical property. Steve, are you out there?
We've lost him.
Yeah, we lost him.
Steve Rogan is on the historical commission.
Sure.
And surely this cemetery would come under the purview of the historical commission in some way or another. But Mass Historical Commission ought to be informed of the zoning violations.
Yes, we are.
Somebody should be cited for that.
But we've notified a couple of people. We've sent a letter asking clarification on the zoning laws, and the letter has been unresponded to so far. There are people that we've spoken with, Steve Servo we've talked with, Steve Solari also we've talked with. Again, everybody's kind of wondering what they're looking for clarification too. I'm not sure where that clarification is going to come from, but
well,
I don't know.
These houses that are being built, I mean, they're not constructed yet, are they?
No,
yes, some of them are. Yeah, one of them out of the 3 or 4, Rich, are. Remember,
yeah,
but that's
there's,
enough
there's two
away
lots.
from us, right?
The last time we were out there, there are now 2 lots going in that corner that faces the north side of the cemetery.
Right.
Why can the building inspector not stop that? There ought to be a cease and desist.
They've been asked. They've been asked, Mr. Smith.
Oh, yeah.
We asked 2 different departments in the town for cease and desist, but it's a matter of, we were told it's a matter, off the record, we were told it's a matter of money that comes in from developers, so.
I will tell you, you're on the record right now.
That doesn't matter.
Okay,
Doesn't
sorry.
matter.
Oh,
I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Fulton, I appreciate that.
Another suggestion is,
Yes, Chief.
I'll bring it, I can't promise anything with this, but I'll bring it before the Parks and Rec Commission.
Okay.
because we found out last year, not knowing it because nobody ever told us this, that
Right,
cemeteries,
you and I had that discussion.
right, the cemeteries are now under Parks and Rec.
Right.
I can put it before them to
Okay.
see if we have a new superintendent of the grounds, to see if they want to pursue it and just say, you know, development is encroaching on the cemetery and the roots and the trees and all that. So I can bring that up at the next meeting with them.
Thank you. Our problem, Gina, is that it's happening so fast. We're out there every week, at least once a week, sometimes twice, and it changes very quickly because they're trying to get the last 2 or 3 houses, which are within, Rich, you walked it one day. Was it within 25 feet of the fence?
Yeah, it's about 30 feet total from the where the last foundation would go to basically where the fence is.
But with no easement, right?
No easements.
I'm going to ask, because of the hour, we've heard that, and all I wanted to say is, I think it's incumbent on you guys to potentially get an assessment of the cemetery, and that's eligible under CPA. It's eligible under the admin code, not the admin code, but the administrative part.
Right.
And so, if you wanted to get a formal assessment of what is in there, so you can that can help with you down the road.
Yes.
I would suggest you send a letter from the Friends requesting funds to do that on that town property.
Yeah, but I saw your mention there, Carlton, about the 5,000 put towards the.
I just that's
a ballpark figure. Yeah, I get you.
Yes, do your research on who could do that. Maybe
we have been doing that.
It would be a tremendous help, though, to have that done, to have that study done, and be able to figure out what the best course of action is with the CPA.
It may give you a roadmap. So,
or CPC.
Yeah, if you draft some kind of letter and send to me as chair of the Historic District Commission, I can put that out on the Mass Historic listserv, where it will be seen by several thousand people, and they will weigh in on any solutions or suggestions that might have. And by doing that, we will raise the consciousness level of this problem, and maybe even some embarrassment. Because it will be seen by thousands of people who are on the listserv. They talk about everything from horsehair. The topic today was horsehair, how to refluff horsehair for upholstering. And then they talk about all kinds of enforcement issues for historic districts and historical commissions. And people always have suggestions. And it will be a way of raising the consciousness level, I think, of these issues. Because this is a very important cemetery we're talking about here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right, to move us along, to reiterate what was said, if you come up with somebody who can do the assessment with a amount, and if you want to send a letter requesting CPA admin funds, you can send it to me and I'll share it with the committee.
Okay, thank you, Gina. Can we also include the fact that we already have estimates for someone who's been wanting to come for 2 years, a preservator, to do an assessment of what the stones will need over the next couple of years, and he'd come out 3 times as long as I can get a group of dedicated volunteers, which that's why BSU, Bridgewater State University, has voted with their board and agreed they can't give us funding, but they can give us dedicated volunteers. So we need extra funds for that too. And I don't know who to go through besides you in the town.
Kathy, I would suggest you include that in a letter. We can research that a little bit, but
thank you.
I think if you're doing an assessment and he's coming to do an assessment, then maybe it possibly could fit in that. I can't guarantee it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Have, one last thing, have you, I think you probably have talked to Chip Mangione, Chip,
Chip Mangio.
yes.
Yeah, he's not involved with us really anymore. He's pretty much tuckered out. He did so much
Right,
in his borough.
I thought of him the other day because I saw something, and it was on Facebook, and it was something about Middleborough cemeteries, and it said to contact him.
Right. He originally helped most of the South Shore ones, as you probably know, for many, many, many years. And then he started to be able to, because of his work, get a lot of state funding and other grants, good ones. He did a project on the Civil War, and he got quite a large sum grant on that one too. So, but he just lost his mother the last year, and he's kind of tired now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But thank you for
Gina,
that.
So
I'm going to
I had a
ask
quick
that.
question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, just really quick. I just for Kathy and Rich. Did like these weirdo people that go on the cemetery and drive on the cemetery. I don't know why someone in their right mind would do that, but did you file, like, did you go to the police about that? Did they make any arrests on that front? I'm just curious because I find that, like, ridiculous.
It's been seen before, and neighbors have seen it before. There are occasionally a couple of trucks on a fairly regular basis that will go in, and by the nature of the cemetery, there's enough room to drive in through the between the stone pillars, and you can drive around to the backside, come around, and then there's an old road about, say, 25 feet down that you can come back on. And then by that time, you're already driving over paupers' graves. So, but it's possible they don't know it. But
How about a video camera on the battery powered video?
Yeah, exactly.
Game camera wouldn't hurt for something like that, to be able to pick up a license plate.
I think pointing in and hidden a little bit. Anyway, I'd like to move the meeting to a close.
Okay,
It's
sorry.
very late.
Thank you.
And I think we've already dealt with the central square, and the multi-housing zoning can be deferred. And I think everything else can be deferred, and we can go to our next meeting. That's my personal opinion. I don't know what the committee thinks.
I have one question to pose to you folks about a demolition delay application. I was informed by somebody in the town that there's been a demolition delay application made for the Perkins building off of Broad Street, which is a large brick manufacturing building that was constructed in 1848, and someone wants to take it down. That's going to be reviewed by the Historical Commission. I'm not on the Historical Commission. I'm on the Historic District Commission. And I have a call into David Moore to talk about it. Does anybody know anything about this project? I mean, this is an important manufacturing building, probably the last one in Bridgewater that is of any historical importance. They've all been removed over the years. And I looked at the outside the other day, and there are a lot of bad newer buildings kind of clustered around it, but that large brick structure and then that lovely round brick chimney that goes up seem to be in pretty good shape. I don't know anything about it, but is it the company itself that wants to remove the building? Does anybody know about that? Because this is going to happen.
I know both projects.
Okay.
Sorry?
My guess is it's the developers, but Colton.
I know I followed both projects. There's two projects. One is the Walkover Shoe Factory that has been purchased and will be upgraded to a atmospherically controlled, climate controlled building.
Yeah.
They propose to take down the chimney area as well as that add-on addition that you see next to the railroad track and add on more storage space. That's one project.
Yeah.
There's also across the railroad track, the Perkins property.
Yes.
That property is being looked at by the planning board. They've already filed a lot of information. The idea there is to, and the town council has expanded the central business district to include that quote unquote Perkins property area, the outlines. So that makes the property require to have 30% commercial on the first floor of the total development, and then they can put apartments up above, and that's the plan there. And that's in the planning program also. They will be, if they haven't, they need to ask for removal of those historic buildings on the Perkins property. But the McElwain School property, I know that one's filed. I was happened to look at, I don't know if all the committee members know that in the town hall, there is a set of mailboxes for you, and all mail that comes for us gets deposited in that. Lots of committees don't know about it. But I did notice today that one thing was filed when I was in there. I checked our box and I saw something in the historical commission or the historic, your commission, that there was a demolition request. And I sent that notice out to David and out to Steve Rogan, who's no longer on the call. And I sent that to them, and David wrote back that he's aware of a requirement. Our zoning requires the historical commission to determine whether or not that building can be demolished, and they have a certain time frame to do that.
Yeah, right. We have a demolition delay by law as of about 10 years ago. So they can't just come in one day and tear it down the next. But
no, if they tear it down, they're in violation of our zoning law.
Right. That's serious. That's very serious.
Okay.
But it does have to be reviewed. I don't know what kind of condition the building's in. I don't know anything, but
well, it's up to Steve Rogan's committee, and David's the vice chair. So that one, it's great that we have awareness of it, but unfortunately, we don't have much say at this committee level. But your committee and historical does.
Well, that's not part of our jurisdiction because it's not in the historic district. But I'm still going to weigh in on it because it's an important building, and in many towns that would be restored and used for commercial space or whatever.
If it's the McElwain building, the McElwain Walkover Shoe Factory, it ain't going to be restored.
No, I know that. I'm talking about the Perkins building, the brick building.
The last thing I'll say on that, the developer in the last planning board meeting that I listened in on said once the rezoning occurred, they indicated they were going to redraw all of their plans. That's all I know.
Jane, can you, as a planning board person for another week, do you have anything to add for that, or that you know about through the planning board? You're muted. Jane? Jane, you're muted.
Maybe she thought we were done after.
Touchdown.
No, well, there you are. Do you have anything to add?
That's what Carlton said.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Gene, I should have let you do it. I should have let you pontificate.
Oh, that's okay. I was muted.
Okay, as Carlton said, we'll hold off till April on the housing zoning requirements. I have no other new business. We can hold off on committee reports unless somebody has something really important they want to update us on, but we've kind of heard from conservation, from myself for Parks and Rec.
All set here.
Okay, sounds good. We can hold off on that. Upcoming events, I know of none. We have, well, we do have a few public left. Kathy, Rich, Allison, any public comments? Okay, my last comment is, well, I have two comments. I'll be real quick. Again, I want to thank Jean for all her years of dedication to us. And Jean, you're welcome to jump on if on the fourth Wednesday you have nothing to do. Feel free to join us. I know you've read the application for the library and for the church. So if you have comments on that, we'd still like to hear them at some point. You won't be able to vote, but I especially look to your expertise in some of these things. So again, thank you. Good luck at your next venture.
We'll miss your updates from the planning board, Jean.
Yes.
They were always fascinating.
They are
Yes.
looking for a replacement, but I'm not sure if they'll find one as competent as her.
No,
I
sure.
don't think so. Okay, my last thing is, I have to say, I know we did lose Steve, but this is the first time in God knows how long that we had a full complement of our board tonight. So I thank the CPC. Stacy, I hope we haven't scared you away. We don't usually have 3-hour meetings, but there's just
You
a lot
have
to
not
discuss.
scared me away. It's been wonderful. Great experience.
That's good. That's good. And again, welcome to the committee.
I thank you all.
It's always interesting and learning.
It is. It is. Next meeting date is, as we said on the agenda, April 27th at 6:30 p.m. Last thing is.
It can be in person, according to the new rules. It can be in person.
Oh,
right. April 1st, right?
Yep. So Gina will let you know.
Yep. Josh, it's April 1st that live meetings are open.
That's correct.
Do they have to be hybrid or just live like before?
I believe our stance is not hybrid. We're either in person or we are doing Zoom.
Remote.
Will they be open to the public, Josh, via Zoom?
So if everybody's on Zoom, then it'll be open to the public, but we don't have the staffing to do both.
Okay.
Yeah, that's too bad. Just because, many people kind of liked the access to the meetings that they couldn't get out to.
Right. So I think the hard thing is, so if you had like me there, if we were doing it in person, we'd need somebody else to be watching like the chat and everything and letting people in through the Zoom. So I think that's. Sorry, what was that, Carl?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I have a bad habit. I thought the town council was actually going to be able to go hybrid in their in April.
So the town council is going to, so it can be run that way because there's so much staff that attends those meetings. But for the individual meetings, so like the CPC Finance Committee, those meetings, we don't have enough staff for that.
Could we request, I'm sorry to belabor this, but could we request a memo from the town manager about how to proceed? No, I'm as a member of this committee, I'm asking for a memo from him as to exactly what we need to do and can do.
Carlton, tomorrow night is our last conservation meeting on Zoom. All future meetings of conservation will be in person at the town hall.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and it'll be nice to see everybody like what they look like in real life, and not on a computer screen.
You don't like my picture?
Harry, I think you're the most handsome one on here. No offense to the other guys here, but
none of us will have aged a day.
Yeah, but
everybody has to get dressed.
I'm on Windows 7. That's how advanced I am.
Well, he wins the best beard contest.
Harry does. Okay, there's my remote picture.
On that, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Josh, roll call.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Kevin. Kevin, you're muted. We can't
Just
hear
figure
you.
out, say yes.
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Carlton and Gina,
Thank you, everybody.
Carlton and
Have a
Gina,
good
thank
rest of
you.
your night.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very
You're
much.
Okay,
welcome.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.